We are a program that is out of Pepperdine Grazie Deo Business School. We are in our 8th year of running the program. And at the start, we are an education tool for any US-based founder. Why I say that is that we have online surveys that we provide for founders to take to help them learn about what potential investors would be looking for from them. And we start our process with just a quick intake form that allows any company to just prove that they meet our criteria and that they're a for-profit, they are US based. We have a few rules. Franchises aren't considered startups in our program. And then we have what we call our quarterfinals survey, that any founder who takes it and completes it receives a feedback report. It's a free feedback report to them. It's automated, but it is customized that points out to them both pros and cons, to give them feedback to say that if they were to go out and try to raise funding from outside investors today, based on what they told us, here are the areas where we think investors would consider them a positive prospect. And here, conversely, the areas where we think they might have some concerns, and concerns from a perspective of, well, it's not perfect. No company is perfect. We know that. But that the companies then, if they do go out to raise funding, they're prepared to address those areas, right? They have either a story to tell that on how they're addressing it, or what their go-forward plans are to address those areas of concern. So we're happy to provide that annually to, as I mentioned, any US-based startup. So founders don't have to be affiliated with Pepperdine. A lot of programs that come out of colleges require that you're an alum or a student, but this is really for anybody. In fact, we've had participation from founders across all 50 states for 6 years in a row now. And that's one of their goals in putting this out, is that we can reach founders in places where they might not have access to such tools. And I'll just if I can, I'll make a plug here for any school. Most people live near in an area where they're near an educational institution. And many, like this program, that Most Fundable Companies that we run here at Pepperdine, many have either resources or tools or maybe a forum or an event that is open to anybody. So I just encourage anybody, if they're a founder, regardless of where you are, even if you didn't go to a school, some of them, and many do have programs that are available, that could be available to you, even if you're not affiliated with that school. Going back to Most Fundable Companies, I'll add the second part, which is on top of those assessments and those feedback reports that we provide, we layer on top of that what we call the competition. In that, out of all the companies that complete those quarterfinal surveys each year, we select about 100 to advance to additional rounds, additional assessments, to compete for our annual published list, which is the Most Fundable Companies list. We publish that and announce those winners, who are usually between 15 and 20 companies per year. We don't have a set number because we want to make the list dependent on the companies themselves. And we announce that every fall and invite those companies to come to our campus in Malibu, California, to present in front of an audience that consists of investors, service providers, our students, and really the whole ecosystem here in LA and Southern California, and publish the list also nationally. Generally, we've published it every year in Entrepreneur Magazine, both online and in their print magazine. So we're an education tool and a competition, both. What we're not is a pitch competition. In fact, the company pitches come in much later in the process, and because we want to know about the whole company, not just like a 3-minute snippet. So I'll stop there because I think that's a very long-winded answer to your very first question.
No, this is so great. So this year, you have been doing it for last 8 years. From the last 6 years, you are getting participation from all the 50 states here in the US. The company has to be a US entity and they have to be profitable. 2,300 applications this year. How did you process that?
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. When I talked about that quarterfinal survey and the feedback reports, that first assessment, the first full assessment that companies complete, many actually don't complete it. We get probably between 50 and 60% of companies actually make it through to the end. And that's for a couple of reasons. Number one, they're realizing that it's a lengthy assessment, and maybe they don't have the time. Maybe they thought this was a pitch competition where they would just simply, send in their deck, answer a couple questions, or send in a video. So people learn that, no, we're actually kind of taking you through, an intensive process. So the timing might not be right for them. They might have too much to do, right? You're running a startup. Or, a lot of people realize they're not ready. They don't actually have answers to a lot of these questions. So people sometimes self-select out for that reason. My response to those companies, if they reach out to us and say, this is too much, it's too intensive, I encourage them to go through it, because even if you don't answer the questions, or you answer it in one way, and that's not going to be the case in 6 months, that's okay. We're not putting judgment on you or the company. This is a learning exercise, right? So to have a baseline, I encourage people just to establish a baseline that they can then improve upon the next year. We have companies who come back every year. Some come back because they went pretty far in the process in a prior year, and they think they've got a better shot at making the list the following year. Some companies have told us, we know we're never going to make your list, but for us, this is a really good sort of annual strategic checkup for us. It's a good playing exercise for me to go through and really just be able to take a step back and look at my company from the outside.
So true, so true. And I have gone through that application process in the interviews that I have done during the course of selecting the startups, and I know how exhaustive it is. And it is really a great tool, as you said. If people, or if the startup founders go in and apply, they will have to think it really through what to put on various question, and how one question is related to another one. At the same time, they are two different questions altogether. They will be much more prepared to be in front of any angel group or any angel investor if they have gone through your application process. 100% on that.
Yeah, I think you touch on a really important point, which is I like to think of our program as thinking, say you have a good presentation, you make a good pitch, and you get a favorable response to that. What comes next? We're helping founders focus on that point. What comes next? What are the conversations that are to follow that are going to be important, and they're going to be extensive? That's where we like to focus, in that space right there, because there are plenty of resources out there to help you refine your pitch, give a good presentation, but then what? And that's where we like to focus. How we get there is through many volunteers, yourself, Anshuman. Thank you for being part of our network of experts that we bring in to help evaluate the companies in the later rounds. We are conducting interviews. We are asking for additional information across another couple of rounds. We have a semifinals round, and then we have a finals round, which involved group interviews, each one preceded by at least one or two virtual interviews that are being held to learn more about the company beyond what's on paper.
Let's define fundability. You run a program for the last 8 years. So what is fundable startup in your terms?
Yeah. So it's interesting, and this is something that we're focused on as a business school. So I work with 2 finance professors, they are, they're the PhDs, they're applying sort of the academic lens to this. So what we're interested in and putting together is research and papers or publications that we can publish as a result of the work that we're doing, to identify what trends are taking place. Obviously, we're not current or forward looking, but we're more backward looking because we're going on history. But Dr. Craig Everett, he's one of our finance professors. He published a white paper on founder education, for example, and learned that founder education is not a linear relationship. The more education you have, the more likelihood of success for your startup. So it's just one example of how we're sort of thinking about and taking a look at the information that we're gaining across all these startups and putting that together in an aggregate way to come up with some insights. So the mystery is, and he's a PhD, so he's not really happy about this, but if you kind of turns out that once you hit the PhD level, your likelihood of success actually kind of decreases a little bit.
Right.
So that's kind of interesting. And, look, fundability, there's, like we said earlier, no company is perfect, but having the basics in place of your team, that you have, a product, I think you're saying, sort of like, what are two things that sets most people apart is, are you solving a real problem that's that has a sizable enough market that feels that whatever that pain is, or has a need that's not an unmet need that you're addressing. And then for fundable, as we think about it, again, back to, thinking about the what's next after you get someone's interest, a huge part of what we evaluate through our process, and I think it's important for anybody, is, you're going into a relationship, right? You're talking about entering a relationship. So consistency really matters, because that builds credibility. And that's what, and you tell me, you're on the investor side, you're on the other side of the table, but you have to know that this relationship you're entering into, yes, on paper, everything might look good, the boxes are checked, company structure is in place, they've got maybe they have some traction or early benchmarks if they don't have revenue yet, that are positive. But at the end of the day, is this, is this a credible team and a credible founder that you're going to be engaging with, and hopefully over the long term, that is going to be a great ride. So those are some of the things that I think are important to think about, and they're not the tangibles, really.
Yeah. So true. So now let's talk about the lessons from the Most Fundable Companies program. Okay, so many years. What is the most common mistake you see founders make when they pitch to investors? And I agree with you that Most Fundable Companies search is not a pitch competition, but obviously with your expertise and experience, you have sat through so many pitch competition. When you are there, like, for me, a founder, talking more about technology and less about business is one of the mistakes that many of the founders do. Another one, because we do two pitch events every month for my angel group, SGC Angels, and we get 4 or 5 companies from all over the world, plus, and we do it on second and fourth Thursdays of the month, from Middle East, from Europe, from US, India. All those 4 or 5 companies pitch. We allow them 3 minutes to pitch. And in the last so many months that I've been doing this, only 2 or 3 companies were able to complete their pitch to be outright in 3 minutes. And
It's so
each
tough.
time I tell them that, hey, practice your pitch. 3 minutes is a lot of time.
You
But they
know,
don't.
yeah, it's hard. It is really hard. I give everybody credit for, you're putting yourself out there. This is your passion. But there are some mechanics that apply that are important to come across. And you're right. We're not a pitch competition, but when we have our showcase, you have 5 minutes to talk about who your company is, and so it's important. And the pitch is the first introduction in most cases, so it's critical. But I think two things to think about, when you're pitching to investors, right? This is not a sales call. You're not hiring somebody. It's really specific to this situation where you're pitching to potential investors, which are because you've spent so much time on maybe why you started the company or the tech, which is the example that you came to. A lot of people leave their ask, what they're raising, what the deal terms are, how it's going to be used. They leave it to the end. And so if they get caught up in any of those sort of time traps ahead of it, and they're going to get cut off, they never get to that part, which is the part that you want to hear as a potential investor, right? I see that a lot. So, make sure you get to the ask. Some companies say, oh, well, let's talk about that offline. And it's like, wait a minute. You're asking me for money, but you don't want to talk to me about it, and you can't even give me the basics of what your deal is, then that's not good either. The second thing that I think of is when people use superlatives, like we are the first, we are the only. That may be true, but that's an invitation for your audience to disprove whatever you just said. And they've stopped hearing whatever else you said after that, because first or only you go, wait a minute, I know 10 other companies that do this, and so for the listener, they're going off on a tangent just from the use of one word. People do it all the time. We don't have competitors because we're the only one in our space. Those are things that are that they make people stop listening, unfortunately. And you've only got 3 minutes, so you want to keep their attention for the entire time.
So now let's talk about some positive points, some success stories. What do you want to share in your experience and expertise that you have seen a company who went through your Most Fundable Company showcase and they are really doing great, or some of the success story. And the success is not just that now they are at Series B. It could be something else altogether. So think of one or two, and let's say that.
Yeah, there are a couple of different ways I think about this. One is in the aggregate. Okay, so we've had 7 years of list winners. I'll just share some data points around them. In total, those 7 years of list winners are comprised of 128 startups. So our program, of those 128, we track where those founders are over time. I can say that I'm happy to say 87% of those startups are still in business. So 108 of the 128. So that in and of itself is we hear 90% of startups fail. We're close to 90% of startups being ongoing concerns. Yeah. In total, our founders have raised $387 million. That number obviously changes over time. And there have been 4 acquisitions through that. So that's one way I think about successes. Another one is we're going to talk about this at our showcase. We have our showcase for 2025 coming up in a couple of weeks. We're going to have a founder come back who was a list winner in the program last year. And they're going to share their story about how they met their lead investor in their seed round, which is what they were raising at the time when they made the list. They met their lead investor in that seed round through the judges who they met while they were going through the MFC competition. So their MFC judges became their lead investor in their round. That just, that to me is fantastic. those investors or that investor, it's two different people, they partner together. They said this is a company that never would have been on their radar if it hadn't been for volunteering as judges in the MSc program. And from their perspective, well, I'll just say the company's doing well. So that's great. They're raising the seed round, they're doing well. And there's, more exciting things that are, in the future for them that are in the works. And then the two investors shared with me recently that they met other investors, so other people who had invested in that startup that they wouldn't have otherwise have met either, who are very aligned with what they're looking to do, and they're probably going to partner together going forward. So it's really about connecting people. We have companies who are meeting, Anshuman, you're judging companies who don't make the list. And you commented to me earlier, they're really good companies. Just because they didn't make the list, I mean, there's 1% of all the companies that are going through our program. That doesn't mean that they're not a good company, not at all. So their success, and we track that too. Craig takes surveys. So how do we improve our evaluations? How do we improve our algorithms? We use data on non-winners too. That's hugely important. And we love when people call us and say, hey, you guys, we didn't make your list, but guess what? We raised this anyway. And that to us is just, we love hearing that as well.
Yeah.
If I can I share with you a quote from a company? Okay. This is a company who wrote to Craig Everett, and he said, Dear Dr. Everett, I'm going to read this, okay? This is the third year I've competed in your competition on behalf of my company, and I wish to thank you for putting this competition together annually. It's an inspiration to many startup owners from all over the United States, and the feedback is valuable as we navigate the choppy seas of an early stage business. I wish to thank you for making the process run smoothly. This year, as with previous years, the criteria and the questions changed, adjusted, which was refreshing to see. From a personal viewpoint, I enjoy the experience without regret. All's going well as a company, and we're currently in the due diligence phase with an investor who already pledged $2.1 million. Obviously, these are the early stages. There are no guarantees, but it's a positive step that I'm sure your competition has had an indirect hand in. So, there's someone who's writing to us out of the blue to give us an update on what's going on with them, and they never made it past the quarterfinals. So there's a lot of really good innovation going on out there, and hopefully deployment of capital to support those companies. So
no, this is fundability in action. Basically, when you do something or run a program with all the goodness of the heart to build the ecosystem, then this type of note coming back to you is no surprise. People are less expressive many a times, but I have seen the same thing. I'll mentor somebody just out of the blue, and suddenly they will send me a LinkedIn message saying that, the 5-minute call that I had with you and you pointed out these two things, and that has impacted my business in this way. And that is so heartening to listen that, it is working, and all kudos to you and your team to keep doing this relentlessly and bringing so much value to the startup founder ecosystem out there to all the 50 states. Think of it, Alaska, Alaskan company coming and trying to present or applying to here in Southern California. How big is that? So if that is your reach, this is wrong.
Yeah, inviting companies to come here to present is not such a hard ask. Generally, we've been fortunate to have great weather. It's a beautiful location in Malibu, California. For some people, it's their first time coming to California, coming to LA, the LA area. For a lot of people, it's their first time coming to Pepperdine. So it's a way for Pepperdine to be part of not only the LA startup ecosystem, but to be part of the national, just sort of on the national stage, and to be able to promote startups who, for many like you said, you haven't seen many of these companies before. If you're in an area, you're in Southern California, you run all these events, you kind of get to know who's out there, who's at what
Yeah.
stage. And so we hear a lot of positive feedback from investors who are here and able to either attend in person or attend virtually. We do it, all of our program runs virtually essentially until we have our showcase, but people can tune in, but they're seeing companies that they otherwise wouldn't have seen. And that applies to both the list winners as well as we share who our finalists and semifinalists are, again, for the reasons that, we can't have 10 life science companies on our list, but there are some really good ones who are among the finalist and semifinalist ranks. So we're happy to bring exposure to the companies and then get them in front of investors who are ready to deploy capital.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I'm looking forward to the upcoming showcase that we are doing. So now let's talk about bridging founders and investors beyond the pitch deck.
I go back to when I think about that, I think make sure that, so you're going to get the deck. The deck is sort of the glossy cover. Once you open that glossy cover, I think about the basics, like a clean cap table, that the company's structure is in place. These are the things that are foundational and are must-haves, right? And that you just need to have your housekeeping in place. We look at, for example, when we're reviewing our companies, we're looking at, okay, they said they're a Delaware-based startup. Are they paying their taxes? Are they registered in the state that they're registered in? There's just very simple housekeeping things that are really important to just have ready and available, and don't make them a question, because they shouldn't be, right? If you're running your business right, you're running it well, then those they're just easy things that can become red flags that just should be addressed up front and never should be on the table. And then just, what's the opportunity for a return, right? Why are you doing this? You're not doing this because you want to hang out with them forever. You're going to be hanging out for a little while, and hopefully it's all going to go great. But you're also going to want to get out at some point. And so, I think I oftentimes, people don't really have sort of a clear plan, or, they've got their forecast and, you're going to be $1 billion company in 5 years, and that's going to be great for everybody. But that's really, generally not how it turns out. So I think having a clear exit strategy, or at least what you currently think that will be most realistically, to be clear about that, because that's something that's kind of, everyone's like, oh, well, that's out there and we've got a lot to do now, but you're going to want to be making a return on this investment in a reasonable amount of time. And if you can't have a clear line of sight to that, then you're not going to invest.
Yeah, so true. So true. Thanks for sharing that. So last 1 or 2 questions now, Amy. We have been talking for the last 5 minutes. Thank you again for your time and presence here on this podcast. 3 or 4 top things that the founders can do today to improve their fundability. I'm again circling it back to the fundable startups.
Sure.
What they should be doing to make themselves more fundable?
Right. One thing that comes to mind is a lot of companies are pre-revenue. And so if they're looking, I would just advise them. I'm not an active investor personally, right? But I hear a lot of talk about revenue these days. And a lot of people are saying, we're not going to invest in anybody who doesn't have revenue yet. That's really tough, right? And so if you're a company and you say you're raising a pre-seed round and you don't have revenue, then have really good benchmarks, have really good replacements for revenue, to say that, okay, I've got these KPIs, or I've got, maybe you're not live yet, but you've got your beta, you've got this many users, you've got paid pilots, anything that you can prove that, revenue is likely and is likely to come soon, so that, you can get to wherever you need to go if you need to raise funding now. In order, obviously having revenue is great, but not everyone's there. So that's facts. So I don't know, what are your thoughts on revenue right now? I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. These days, and the more of the early stage investors, they need to see traction before they invest. And revenue also, what I have been hearing and seeing in various pitch competitions and due diligence call, is they want to see a growth pattern in revenue. If
mm,
you are stale, maintaining the same ARR and MRR, then it is not going to do anything good for you. There should be incremental, uh, increase in revenue month over month, quarter over quarter, year over year. This
mhm,
is very much these days into it, unless you are in med devices and health tech and some of
right.
those things which needs FDA clearance. Those are different.
Entirely different timelines, entirely different rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for SaaS platform, anything related to AI, more so in AI, they want to see revenue in 3 months. You started 3 months ago, and how come if you're an AI company, you're not making money?
Right. Right. Yeah. I guess on AI, what I've seen with some AI companies is, all right, we've got something really cool, but we're not exactly sure what market needs it, right? It's sort of like you've got a cool tech, but not a need to apply it to. So that's something that's difficult to get past. So having a clear plan on your initial target industry, and even if you consider it only your initial, make it your most important and make it your primary, so that people have a clear understanding. Like, all right, well, maybe it does have further applications down the line, but I don't really care about those right now. I want to know that
Mhm.
one industry has a need for this and is going to be willing to pay for it.
Yeah.
So, I've seen a bit of that, unfortunately, because there's a lot of really smart people doing a lot of really cool things, but if they're not really meeting or addressing a real problem that has a problem of scale, then it's going to be hard to get somebody to invest. I guess the other
Yeah.
thing too, and it's going back to pre-revenue companies. Something I see with a lot of SaaS companies too is they're out looking for funding to build their product, which
Yeah.
is tough to do. Get
Very
get
true.
a get something out there. Get your alpha, get your beta, um, because I mean, I've heard it many times. Look, I like you. If I'm a potential investor, I'm talking to a founder and say, I like you and I believe in you, but I'm not going to help you build it. Once you've got it, come and show me how it works, and that people are willing again to use it, utilize it. But I'm not going to put my money into building your initial tech.
Yeah. So true. I mean, early stage investors, angel investors, they are not here to fund your dream. They are here to fund your product, services, or platform.
Mm-hmm.
So, the dream has to be developed by your own fund, your friends and family kind of around. When you are going to the angel investor, at least MVP has to be there, and then maybe some potential letter of intent from your potential customer. I have heard that people are building something, they are well into a solution, but they have never interviewed their customer. That
Oh
are they
yeah,
going? Yeah. I always say that the problem, the way you are defining or identifying the problem could be a good problem to have for you, and you are building a solution for that. Have you spoke with 100 potential customer, and what is their feedback?
yeah. Again, going back to your friends, your 10 friends are not a sample size, right?
Yeah,
So understand who your target is and test it, because you might not understand who your target is. um, or even if you have a good grasp on who your target customer is, maybe you haven't built what they're you haven't built the product that's going to address whatever their need is or their problem. It's to solve their problem. So it takes iteration. Yeah, you're right. A lot of, back to make sure you have something, but have built it based on an iterative process that involves your potential customers. Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And it's very
So
low cost to do. That doesn't take a lot of money to do that.
yeah,
Listen,
yeah,
you
and
can do it with wireframes, listening sessions. Yeah.
you should
Start
be
there.
talking. Yeah, start there because what better for an investor to look at that, hey, my sample size of this problem and solution is 252 potential customer, and out of that 20% have said that build it now, we would like to implement that kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
great.
It's a lot of
Let's
work.
talk.
We can't deny it. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, let's talk about the showcase that you are doing. Anybody is invited, where they can find it? Is there a ticket? Can any founder come? Can any investor come? And what is the calendar for 2026?
Thank you. Yes, our 2025 Most Fundable Companies Showcase is on September 24th at 12 p.m. Pacific time. We have anyone is invited to attend. If you happen to be in Southern California and you can get to Malibu for the afternoon, we'd love to see you there in person. We have a registration. You can find it on our website. But I'll say that if you're not in Southern California and you can't spend the afternoon in Malibu, we have virtual attendee options that are free tickets on our registration site. Plus, we record the entire event. So I would recommend to anybody, if you can't make it, live that day, our recording is out there. What happens a lot is people will watch our current year showcase, and then they'll go back and watch prior years because they want to learn more and they want to learn more about all the other companies. All of this, our prior year winners, our event registration site, the link to our site, a link to our survey if you want to get in the queue for 2026. Everything is on our website. It's at bschool.pepperdine.edu/MFC for Most Fundable Companies. That's the place to go. Yep, you can find our registration there. You can find if you're a founder, how to get in the queue for 2026. We generally kick off our program each year in the spring, February, March timeframe. But if you put it in now, we'll let you know. We'll reach back out to you when we launch our 2026 program. So founders can come to us any time of year. And for anyone who wants to watch the showcase on September 24th, if you sign up as a virtual attendee, we'll send you our event program. If you're there in person, you'll get one, physical one. But if you sign up as a virtual attendee, whether you can watch on the 24th live or not, we'll email you our event program, which has all of the list winner profiles, their contact information. We'll have a QR code to Startup Steroid on there, which is a voting platform and a place where anyone can give feedback to the companies, and that'll go directly to the startups themselves. So if you want to reach out to them to connect with them that way as well.